What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Guilty as Charged podcast. Alex, we did it. We're recording together, and the Chargers didn't lose. They weren't terrible. Good things happened. I'm very excited. I'm so excited to talk about this game. Steven can't be with us right now. He's at Disneyland being a shill. Oh, I just lost Alex. Now it's just me. Okay, Tyler, how are you doing? Good. I'm doing very well. I just watched the Chargers win. Great. Okay, so he's not here anymore. So let's just talk about the game. I would like to talk about I'll kind of stall as we wait for Alex to get back. I would like to talk about I don't know where Alex went. I'd like to talk about this 2023 draft class because, man, we talk about a difference a regime change can make, right? Because this 2023 class last year was kind of like the death knell for the organization. Of course, many injuries and other things along the way last year, but they needed that class to do well last year. They didn't do well, and it cost people jobs. That same class today under a new regime, I mean, let me just go through the success they had today, and they've had tremendous success this whole season, but particularly today, Quentin Johnson, first-round pick, sure, only 24 yards, but a touchdown. 2 catches, 24 yards, and a touchdown. Tuli Tuipulotu today will wait for the official, or I guess the unofficial pressure numbers, but had several pressures. He's credited right now with 5 tackles, 3 solo, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. Okay, how about the third-round pick, Deion Henley, 14 tackles, 11 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 quarterback hit. Hey, that's pretty good. All right, Darius Davis. Okay, so how about a 56-yard kickoff return? Hey, that's pretty good. All right, Scott Matlock. Oh, you're starting fullback. Like this 2023 class with this new regime. Oh my goodness. Like it was awesome today to see this group. You know, they've had their moments, but today they were awesome. They were fantastic today. Yes. Hello, everyone. The Los Angeles Tylers. I'm seeing all the comments in the chat. I'm so sorry. It's just me. It was Alex for like 5 seconds, I promise, but whatever. Anyway, the 2023 class is awesome. And but it's truly just a credit to Jim Harbaugh and Ben Herbert, Jesse Minter, Greg Roman, whatever. Like this entire staff found something in these guys that I think even like most of us wrote off after last year. I mean, no one was happy with Quentin Johnson. Not that he's, wide receiver 1 elite numbers by any means, but clearly more productive this year. Tuli was great last year, so that's fine. Deion Henley, like they didn't want to play him. He wasn't even a special teamer last year. The Chargers this year maybe didn't think Henley would do this either. But, hey, man, Navarro Bowman, Jesse Minter, they've got Deion Henley playing fantastic football. Steve and I had discussed last week, and Alex is back, by the way. Alex is back! They won!
Yeah, so right as Tyler was about to celebrate and say I was back, my computer just absolutely blue screened me, which was just amazing stuff. But wouldn't be another show without technical difficulties.
Of course. No, I had to welcome it back. And you know what? Sometimes you don't do so well in the beginning, but you figure things out. Just like the Chargers offensive line today, which the interior stunk at the beginning of this game. I was ready to drive to SoFi and write an angry letter myself. Zion with that near costly fumble, whatever, that thankfully wasn't a fumble, allowing that hit that I thought was a sack that almost swung the entire game. But other than that, the rest of the way, the Chargers offensive line only allowed 1 pressure in the second half. I took a screenshot of the Herbert touchdown to Quentin Johnston, where it's like everyone just go block Simmons. It was Bozeman, it was Zion, and even J.K. Dobbins was on Simmons there. And it worked. They only allowed 1 pressure the rest of the way, and that was on Joe Alt. They only allowed 9 pressures on the day, 8 by the line and 1 by Dobbins. Yeah, no sacks allowed. Some of that's definitely Herbert, and we'll get to Herbert because, by golly, that was fun today. But it was a really fun game. So, Alex, I talked about the 2023 class already. I just mentioned the offensive line.
Yeah.
Any thoughts so far on this win?
Yeah, no, really good win. Nice to be on the pod during a win. The last 3 in the Crippled Chiefs game, the Lions game where Ben Johnson obliterated us, and the Packers game. Those are the last 3 times I've been on. So nice to be here after an uncontroversial win, to say the least. So, no, it was a really fun game. And, you could say whatever about the opponents that they played the last few weeks. But, no, I thought the Cardinals game showed some, weaknesses on tape in the last 3 games, even though it's, easy pickings. They took care of business and have really adapted pretty well. I feel particularly good about the offensive line, which you mentioned, adapting in the second half of games. Did it pretty nicely against the Browns, and even better, I think, in terms of adjusting this week. Obviously, Titans not quite that Browns challenge that Myles Garrett poses, but like you said, just shifting over, the communication was all on point. So nice to see that from them. And then, like you were mentioning with the 2023 draft class, just all these guys being able to contribute. Dion, the last month, is just consistently over 10 tackles, flying all over the field, making run stops. Just not much you could say about him. And it felt, a far cry from last year saying that, he's not ready. A little bit of a position converter, not quite there yet physically. From the previous coaching regime to, he's going to be an all-pro linebacker, if not this year, at some point in the future. That's just how it feels with his tenacity. So nice for him. Nice for QJ the last couple of weeks too, coming back from the ankle injury, sort of making his presence felt. McConkey with the big catch near the end to kind of, close out sort of that drive on the final score. So nice to see it all around. The last couple of draft classes really contributing to this win. And, that's all coaching and that's all general management, their effort too.
Yeah, the startup time for rookies or new players is just so much faster with this regime. I mean, Cam Hart, okay, you're out there, and oh, wow, you're actually a pretty good corner, starting immediately and playing really well. Elijah Molden, you're on our team now. Hey, you're a great player. Tart, you're a great player. I mean, everyone just immediately with this regime, offense or defense, the exception of maybe a Bozeman and Edwards to an extent. But for the most part, this regime, I'm so used to waiting. Okay, here's year 1, here's year 2, here's year 3. And then Trey Pipkins figures it out by year 4, gets a contract, and then maybe it's not so great. This team is just now how about we just sort this all out in year 1 or maybe year 2? Really impressive from this group. Let's talk about Edwards. We'll get to Herbert. I promise he's in the thumbnail. I promise we'll talk about him. The rushing attack, maybe in general, and the way the offensive line played. We had been so frustrated with Gus Edwards, and part of it was just the usage, because they would had him for 18 rushing attempts 1 week and then 8 the next 2 weeks. It was so confusing. And then they said maybe there was an offseason surgery, then there wasn't, then there's this injury. What's going on? He was one of the most inefficient backs in the league. I don't know who that was today, but it wasn't the Edwards we saw through the first couple of weeks. That was the Gus Edwards that we all thought the Chargers were going to get at the beginning of the season. He looked awesome today.
Yeah, I made the joke that he kind of went to Germany like CMC, and now they're both back in the mix today. So, nice to see it from Gus too. And I just think those first 2 weeks in particular, even though Gus was not doing anything outstanding carries wise, it's just such a different rushing attack when they can trust another back other than JK to get 10 carries. And then you mentioned that weeks 3 and 4 stretch. I think he had 6 carries week 3, 3 in week 4 or something along those lines. And then with the injury, it just became clear that they didn't feel like they could do that. So, he spends 4 weeks on IR, and for him to finally feel comfortable today, what he end up having 10 carries over 50 yards. That's exactly what you want out of him. So great stuff from Gus. And I hope he can kind of keep this up for the rest of the season, because it makes, Dobbins way more effective too. You don't have to ground Dobbins into the ground for 25 carries a game, which they've been having to sort of do recently. So this is the best, and what the vision for the backfield ultimately was. So hopefully we get to see more healthy Gus, and this wasn't just 1 week. But the Rutgers win this week, a nice Gus game. We're making steps. We're making steps forward.
There you go. Yeah. So the numbers, if you just look at the rest of the season, the first 4 games he played, 2.4 yards per carry, 3.3, 3.2, ugly stuff. I mean, it was the first year of his career he averaged under 4 yards a carry, and it wasn't even close. It was low 3s. Today, 5.4 yards per carry, as you mentioned, 10 carries, 54 yards, 2.4 yards after contact. Forced a missed tackle. He only had 1 the previous 4 games. He finally forced one today. He had his longest run, which is sure only 11 yards, but that was good to see. 2 runs of 10 plus today, where he only had 1 the first 4 weeks. Things were just much, much better. 2 first downs. He only had 3 first downs the first 4 weeks. Just a better game overall from him. So happy to see it. It's perfect timing. The Chargers really needed this, whether it's the offensive line or scheme or Tucker Fisk. I'll have to watch and see how much he contributed, or Scott Matlock. I don't know, but they're trending in the right direction with Gus Edwards out there. And if this is what they're going to get, I'm not going to say this offense is fixed in the rushing attack department, but you feel a lot better if this is the version of Gus Edwards you're getting. That's what we've all been excited about. So I'm really excited to see what's next for this attack, especially with some tough opponents coming up. What will be fun, now they play the Ravens in a couple of weeks, but what will be fun is to continue to see Justin Herbert do what he did today. I don't know how much he's going to do of that. I don't expect him to have 9 carries a game, which he had today, at only 32 yards. Surprisingly, only 32 yards.
Yeah.
If you had asked me how many rushing attempts he had, I would have said, okay, like 7 or 8, sure. I wouldn't have guessed 32 rushing yards, but, quarterback sneak, 4-yard touchdown run, stuff like that. But he was, if you didn't know Kenneth Murray was on the Titans before, you definitely did after he juked him out of his socks during that run. Herbert today, man, I think he even kind of surprised fans or even the announcers and the broadcast, because we know he can kind of straight line run, but some of this more like lateral finesse and quickness that I'm not as used to seeing. He displayed that several times today.
Yeah, I think we've seen it a couple times through Herbert's career. I remember the Pittsburgh game was like a little bit of that from a couple of years ago, like 2021. Think of the Rose Bowl, obviously, with Herbert all those years ago. So nice to see that from him. And just like, it was just all in a row too. Kenneth Murray, Sebastian Joseph Day. And then when McCreary just took like Herbert just Iversoned him. Like it was rough to watch, certainly if you're a Titans fan, but it was just great to see that today. We know Herbert is capable of doing stuff like that. And I think when Greg Roman ultimately got hired, like, not that he was ever going to be, Lamar as a rusher, but sure, the idea to just kind of use that athleticism more. And I think they were severely limited in terms of what they could do in the playbook, those first 4 or 5-ish weeks after, he gets hurt in Carolina. And now they've been able to open things up a lot. Just great stuff to, the touchdown with his legs in particular. That play was nice, and a designed run from the start, not just something where he's running out of the pocket. So great stuff. And you can see that it not only juices him during the game, but like 38-yard run against the Saints, like it energizes the team too. And there's definitely a momentum factor that goes into kind of plays like that, moments like that, that just carries the rest of the team as well. So great to see that from Herbert.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I always forget the emotional aspect or the energized aspect.
Yeah.
It was what endeared him to the Chargers players, the sideline, and us in his first game against the Chiefs, where he knocked out whoever that poor DB was. I don't know if that was Ben Neiman. I don't remember. Anyway, whoever that was, I remember the play that Herbert ran. And that's what energized us and endeared us to him. And so for him to do that, like you said, like it does energize the team, and it definitely energizes him. And you see it's competitive for him. Everything like Harbaugh is a competition. I'm going to run you over. I'm going to make you miss. And when he does those things, that's just pure athlete versus athlete to him. And I think he just loves that kind of stuff. So that was great to see. One more thing I do want to get into, and then I'll kind of just bounce back and forth on different topics. This pass rush today, Will Levis inspired and helped for sure. This was not a great Titans offensive line to begin with. 21 pressures and 8 sacks today. Thule had 7 pressures, 2 sacks. Bud Dupree, 4 pressures, 2 sacks. Morgan Fox, 3 pressures. Puna 4, 2 pressures, 1 sack. Otito, Tart, Henley, Derwin, Joey, they had a pressure each, and then Henley, Derwin, and Joey all each had a sack. PFF does not count half of a sack, so I think there was a combined sack and more than 1 or 2 of those. But regardless, it was without Khalil Mack. I wasn't sure how this pass rush would do. Early on, they were not doing so great. In the second half, and really I think this story is about the second half and how the Chargers were able to turn it on. In the second half, boy, this pass rush was relentless.
Yeah, and I think the ability to do that with no Mack after the first quarter, obviously hoping for the best for him and that this was precautionary and not something that, you know, takes him out potentially of a Cincinnati game or the Ravens game coming up. But to have Bosa essentially at 20-ish snaps today, if he ended up playing that, about 4 for Khalil, and to be able to generate as much pressure as they did, really good. Obviously, Puna Ford got in on a sack early in that game, which was great. Thule, the last couple of weeks in particular, has looked unbelievable. And you're used to him kind of handling, setting the edge and those things, but they need the juice from him in particular as a pass rusher right now. With Mack and Bosa, particularly in this game, limited kind of the ways they were. So great to see from him. There was a play where Dupree just kind of threw down Latham on one of those sacks. So that was nice to see. He gets Levis. So nice to essentially have all of those guys get sacks when they need it. Not going to be that easy, in some of their upcoming games and some of the upcoming offensive lines they might play, but definitely a step in the right direction. And, they ultimately, because of, this pass rush, and this is why you invest in it with the Dupree signing, drafting Thule, obviously bringing back Bosa and Mack. So they felt comfortable going into the year with those 4 edge rushers. And so far that's paid off for them.
Yeah, we've been waiting a very long time, and with Joey being hurt after the first game and 4 plays, it was just the Khalil Mack show, and even then, he was very productive, but not otherworldly, 100 pressure kind of season. He was just, solid production, great run defender. We've been really waiting to see this edge rusher group come together and have these explosion games, and we still haven't seen all of it, right? We haven't seen Joey be at full health, as you mentioned. So he played 21 snaps today. Only 14 as a pass rusher. Khalil Mack, I believe, stayed at 4 snaps on the entire game. So you're only getting 16 pass rush snaps from Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. To get 8 sacks and 21 pressures is insane. And I can't wait to watch this Thule film, because, as you mentioned, it's been kind of the run defense show for Thule for most of the way. And that's been awesome. But he started the season, the first 4 games with 5 pressures. And he had no pressures the first 2 games. He's got 14 pressures and 6 sacks, the last 3 games. He is turning it on at the right time. Everyone was a bit worried, oh gosh, was it fool's gold last year? He's been awesome. So I'm really, really encouraged by this pass rush group.
No, really encouraged by them. And, it also starts with how well the secondary has played, in particular this game. And some of the other games, it opens up the opportunity to get some coverage sacks in there as well. Levis, as you mentioned, in that regard also helps. But definitely good to see the pass rush have some of their better days after, kind of struggling a little bit against Arizona. And so the ability to get home with the quarterback, you're going to need that, particularly next week against the Bengals. If you don't, want 60-yard Jamar Chase touchdowns, that's one way to cut them off at the knees.
Yeah, definitely. The lines coming up aren't great. They're better than the Titans, but it's the quarterback play that will definitely elevate them, as Herbert does for the Chargers. So Burrow, Lamar, these guys are going to play better quarterbacks than Will Levis for sure. Did not throw an interception today that I'm aware of. So there goes my prize picks more there. But hey,
0.5 over.
Yeah. There goes my $20 that I spent on that one. But oh well. As far as the rest of the game goes, is there any other thing in particular that stood out to you? We can talk about negatives if you'd like. I think there were definitely negatives in the first half that kind of got fixed in the second half. But is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we started maybe taking some questions?
No, I mean, we mentioned Dion, obviously. I also think from a discipline perspective, they got really heavily penalized that first half too. So that was something that, not necessarily a coaching adjustment, but a player adjustment. I think that second half, because there was a sequence where Derwin and Alohi just kind of both jumped in the neutral zone 2 plays in a row. Just a couple miscues like that in the first half. And so for them to just play very clean football in the second half and sort of run the clock out kind of on the Titans and shut them down. Nice to see, especially because you're going to need to be disciplined and kind of steal possessions in some ways with these upcoming opponents. But not anything specific I can think of off the top of my brain right now.
Yeah. Let's talk about some coaching decisions real quick. One that paid off, one that maybe could be questionable. So towards the end of the first half, they went for it on 4th and 1. I think a lot of Chargers fans were wondering, would they be conservative? Would they go for it?
I was
kind of, what's up?
I said I was a little worried.
Yeah, I was sort of indifferent regarding this game, although the momentum felt like it was starting to go towards the Titans early in this game. But it's Will Levis. Your defense is still your defense. I understand why you'd be conservative, and I think that will change a bit more in the coming weeks against Burrow, against Lamar. But they did go for it on 4th down. It obviously paid off with a Herbert touchdown, which was awesome. The second decision was before the half. The Titans, not the last drive the Titans had, but the second to last, like kind of full drive they had. Poona Ford gets the sack, drops him for -7. It's 3rd and 12, and Jim Harbaugh, they don't call a timeout, and it burns about 40 seconds off the clock. So regarding both those decisions, how did you feel about both?
Less okay on the second one, but I mean they had to go for that 4th and goal. Like, I kind of would have been fine kicking the field goal, but then sort of like the Herbert fumble that got overturned revealed, like, the NFL is the league where you're one play away from potential disaster, right? And so one play goes wrong for you, it's better, I think, to be up, almost essentially, they would have been up, by a touchdown instead of, up by 2 points. That's a huge swing in the game, particularly considering, the adjustments the Chargers made, defensively as well after those first couple of drives. So, just kind of put the game to bed there, sort of my philosophy behind it. And, if you don't get it there, then the Titans are just probably at that point going to like kneel into the half and then, take the ball. So, it's sort of, I thought, they weren't going to lead a 98-yard drive down the field in 30 seconds ish or whatever it was. So I just think you go for it. I understood, some of the Harbaugh calls this season being conservative, kind of like the Arizona game. They didn't go for a ton of 4th downs in that regard. But this is a game where I just think, you just trust your guys to pick up those yards. And they've shown themselves also to be good at those short yardage situations, whether it's Herbert sneaking it, Hassan Haskins, take your yard, right? Whatever it is. They've shown themselves and acquitted themselves in those situations really well.
Yeah, most definitely. So I think we're on the same page there. I think most Chargers fans are generally on the same page there. Good to see them do it, even though didn't affect the outcome of the game in the end. The fact they went for it on 4th down is encouraging to see. Herbert getting to run was encouraging to see. So good stuff there. We'll take some questions now, and then I do want to look ahead to the next stretch of games, because honestly, I did feel going into this game, it was kind of they'll win, but like how much, whatever, fine, just stay healthy. Then you're looking ahead to the next set of games. So we'll take some of your guys' questions for maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And then I want to look ahead to those games, because the season kind of begins next week, it feels like. First one here from Rich E. Sends in $10 on the super chat, just says W. That's a great way to sum it up. It was a win. I think a lot of Chargers fans maybe thought we were complaining, not you, but me and Steven and I were complaining last week regarding the win. I definitely feel, based on the way the team played this week, I liked this win significantly more, even though the score was, minus the garbage time touchdown, was generally similar.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just like seeing both sides of the ball be consistent for 4 quarters, right? They had that sequence kind of for 1.5 quarters, I would say, to start the second half, where they were really struggling on offense until they get that Dobbins drive and, kind of finish things against the Browns. That game probably was over for a while, but still, you had the second half against Denver, which, you could say is complainy, but it's also just like the team they're going to play next week in the Bengals, like you might have to put up more than 27, right? I mean, and so it was just nice to see that consistent driving down the field. I don't even know how many times they punted today in the second half. I couldn't think of it right.
There was definitely a dreadful J.K. Scott punt in there somewhere, but I think that was
yeah. But no, it felt more consistent on offense. It felt, you talked about, I know last week, the kind of broken coverages some of the Browns had, which, it's great for Herbert to take advantage of those, but it felt like this game in particular, more reliable offense down to down.
Yeah. So J.K. Scott, only 3 punts on the day. I don't recall how many in the second half. An average of 38.7 is really bad. I think you give me like a Red Bull and I can get like 35. So yeah, not great there, but didn't cost them. So second half, I have 1 punt when basically they were just running out the clock. It was by the time they punted, it was 3.5 minutes left. So kind of an inconsequential punt where they were just trying to get out of here.
Speaking of special teams, shout out to Darius Davis too. I mean,
man,
50+ yard returns, coming back from the hammy injury, he's been dealing with kind of on and off again this season. So nice to see him healthy and contributing towards flipping the field. So great stuff to see from him.
Yeah, I mean, we were so concerned about him to start the year. And then there, of course, was the injuries and the hamstring. Yeah, we saw him 2-3 plays a game really get involved on offense, but then the hamstring and then Jalen Reagor's here. So like, is he now taking his spot? What's the deal there? And then Darius Davis quietly just came back from his hamstring and was like, here's a 50-yard return. Here's a 50-yard return. I mean, was involved on offense this week. I haven't asked you live yet, so I might as well. Your thoughts on the Jalen Reagor experience?
Dude, he had the sickest catch for -3 yards. It was awesome. I'll give Jalen Reagor credit on that. No, but like honestly, today I thought was at least from what I saw on the TV broadcast, like pretty good game for him as like a blocker as well. He's acquitted himself fine. I'm not gonna overly compliment him. It's not like he went off today and I have to eat shit, but he was he's been good. Yeah,
I think he's been
for the role that he has to play in terms of especially stepping up. In that New Orleans game when they were just down receivers. Nice to see that, and they're down Rice and Simi Fehoko right now too. So. Just as a body, the fact that they can kind of rely on him, and even hey, if something happens to Darius Davis, if something happens to Ladd, you're up to return punts. True. In that part of the game as well. Yeah.
One quick thing, some people are asking about DJ Chark. He had 1 snap on the day. It came very, very late in the game. So they didn't. I don't know if that's because he was off the injury report. So I don't believe it's a get you back in shape thing or anything. He's been working with trainers for a while. I'm curious how much they view him as a starter, and then who do you take off the field, and how much do you take that player off the field? Because they, for better or worse, have very defined roles for both Reagor and Davis. Quentin Johnston is still involved and will be involved. Ladd McConkey wasn't very involved today, but in general has been very, very involved. Palmer at least got the flea flicker, so that was cool, and almost a sick one-handed catch. So I don't know what they're going to do with DJ Chark because he was healthy today, but played 1 snap and it wasn't until garbage time.
Yeah, it's interesting because I expected him to certainly go more today. Not that I was expecting a ton, but I was expecting maybe like 15 snaps, something like that. And they gave him 1, obviously, very late in the game. So I don't know if they just want to see him kind of condition himself more. I don't know how much conditioning the 1 snap did. But, I guess, also it's a nice card to keep in your back pocket to some extent, right? If something happens to one of these other receivers, but they clearly have, the 5-ish guys that they trust on offense right now. And Reagor is one of them, right? In terms of the wide receiver group. So I think they're, they don't tend to play, many games in which they really end up needing 6 receivers. So if Reagor's the guy that they trust right now and, none of the other guys get hurt, like you said, I don't know how much Chark's going to get used.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't mind them having him just randomly in their back pocket in case they ever need him. So we'll see. Just don't fumble with the 3. From my mom, win, yes, yay. I was not with my parents today, but they were obviously watching the game. Both my mom and dad texted me something involving the F word when the Chiefs blocked that field goal when the Broncos won. We were all kind of in a sad spirit after the Chiefs, although it does help the Chargers, but the Chiefs won again. I hate them. Yeah, good day for sure for the Schoen household. The Raiders did not play this week, so that was good for my dad. From Alan, how many of these next games do the Chargers have to win for us to start considering them for a Super Bowl run? I guess we can get into the schedule a little bit here. So they're going to have to play the Bengals, then the Ravens, then the Bucks, and the Chiefs and the Falcons, or Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks.
Bucks, Chiefs.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So those 5 teams, we can talk about that as a whole maybe after this, but how many of them do they have to win to consider the Chargers to go on an actual Super Bowl run? I'd say 4.
I'd say if you win,
you have to beat the Chiefs in there.
Yeah, that's the game you would have to win in terms of like Super Bowl conversation. I'd say, I guess for me, the status quo in the regular season doesn't really like change for them because they're not winning the division, and so if they're getting in by the wild card anyway, then like they need 10 wins to get there. So obviously you would like to see them finish with more, right? If they finish with like 11, 12 wins, great. But I guess I don't know if my contender status, like if they go and beat Ravens, Bengals, and Chiefs, like then that's like, out of the next 5, like if they win those 3 games, that's what would make me go, okay, maybe there is something to like a deeper playoff push this year. But still have some questions about our roster versus their roster, although the win streak right now is nice.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. If they beat those 3 AFC teams in the span of 5 weeks, then yeah, I mean you have to talk Super Bowl run, because other than the Steelers, that's basically everyone in the AFC. Yes, I do feel
like the conference is a little bit more wide open outside of Kansas City and Baltimore. So if you're talking about like that 3rd team in there, obviously Buffalo obviously deserves mention with Josh Allen. But to be that 3rd or 4th team in the mix, I don't think it's that far-fetched to say the Chargers could certainly be that.
Yeah, regardless of their seeding, I think they'll kind of maybe be more the 3rd or 4th best team in the AFC. We'll see. Again, it's very early, but they towards that. Regardless, they'll get the 5th seed or 6th seed. I think the division's still out of the question at this point. Unfortunately, the Chiefs just keep winning, and they still get to play the Raiders. I think the Panthers too. So there's some more wins in there for them, unfortunately. From Jacob, run game was way better. Down today. Great to see Gus showing signs of life. Could be an X factor going forward. Yeah, no big runs, and yet this was their most efficient game by far in quite a bit, because they were better at being consistent down and not relying on the 3 runs of 15 plus or 20 plus or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, if you can get this out of Gus going forward, it's a totally different run game. And so he definitely looked like he was less hampered today by whatever injury, surgery he had kind of in the offseason. So it was nice to see that from him today.
Yeah, definitely. Alrighty, from Daddy Don't Pull Out. Side note, refs carried the Chiefs again today.
Did he just send it in to make you read the name?
Probably. Listen, you guys send in money. I'll read whatever you put on there. I don't care.
I think there's a lie to whatever you would read, but okay.
Find out. Do you guys want to find out? Anything over $10, let's see what happens. Just kidding. Anyway, so that's this individual's question, that refs carried the Chiefs. Maybe. Did you catch the mic'd up version? The thing of where Mahomes was like, "Hey, let me know if there's a defender nearby."
No, I didn't see that. I was watching on Red Zone, but I didn't see that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not surprised by that behavior. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, the Broncos kind of blew it. Like,
he did, yeah.
So, like, I don't know, the refs to an extent, but I don't have any sympathy for Sean Payton, kind of messing up the end of that one. And, you got to close games out. And it's what we've been wanting for the Chargers to do to the Chiefs as well, particularly during the Staley era. So you have them on the ropes, you got to finish them.
Yep. It looked exactly like many Chargers games I've seen, minus the blocked field goal. Everything looked like, oh, look, you're going to beat the Chiefs. You're up in the first half. That's great. They showed, I think, 8 games in a row dating back to the playoffs, I think, of last year, where they were down some number, and they've won the last 8 in a row when they've been down at the half. And now today would be 10, to be 9 in a row. It's ridiculous. That's the Chiefs, though. And that's with an offense that can't do much and is missing several players. So, FBS Gandhi says maybe it's voodoo magic, whatever it is. God loves the Chiefs, apparently.
It's just going back to like the beginning of like the Mahomes era. It was like, oh, well, Chiefs don't have a defense. They don't have a defense. They have to score 40 points, and now they have Spags. And now it's just like he's just terrorizing everybody. It's not great.
Yeah. Although especially if Wanya Morris is out, and it sounds like there's an MCL involved there. Kingsley Suamataia looks awful at offensive tackle. And I didn't love him as a draft prospect. I had kind of thrown around the Alex Leatherwood kind of potential high, but laziness kind of. That wasn't necessarily the comp, but there was a ton of athletic tools that weren't being realized. This guy was supposedly the greatest athlete at tackle since Penei Sewell. And you watch him and you're going, are we sure? He just wasn't quite didn't look the part. Like Penei looked the part on film. Kingsley did not look that part. The tools did not match. And that's kind of showed today, unfortunately. Or not unfortunately. Yay, I suppose. Steven finally gets a win over BYU this weekend. Sorry. I haven't heard from Steven at all, by the way, this weekend. So I think he's in mourning.
Steven was talking shit when Rutgers got like blown out by USC or Wisconsin or whatever. He was like, "Oh, I guess the best team in the chat is up for debate." And I was like, "You know what? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna let you keep talking."
And it's been brutal, man.
It's been brutal for all of our teams except your fake Ohio State fanhood. But I mean,
hey, round on the ends and high in the middle. I know their fights on or whatever. I don't know. USC's fights on, I guess. Anyway, from Derek, I hope to never have to hear Vilma call another Chargers game. I don't know if it was him specifically, but at one point the broadcast said, "Hey, it's really quiet while the Chargers are on offense. That's a really good sign for the Titans." And I was like, I don't think that's how that works.
I didn't really pay that much attention to the announcers today, although they butchered Tuli Pelotu's name a couple times.
Yeah. FBS Gandhi, I'm considering learning Spanish to listen to that broadcast. The clips the team posts are always awesome. Yeah, man, they're fantastic. I've never listened to that broadcast, but like you said, the clips are always outstanding. Ooh, we have a University of Wyoming fan here in Dylan. Wow. I don't know.
Shout out Josh Allen.
Yeah, shout out Josh Allen. And I think there was a linebacker 2 years ago, came out from there. I forget his name, but yeah, good for them. The only
thing I know about Wyoming is Josh Allen and the Cheneys. That's about it.
Yeah, a couple of things. I don't know anything about college football. Honestly, I'm the worst. But yeah, that's that. Okay, so let's look at this schedule now. Chad Muma, thank you.
Oh yeah, that guy. I remember.
There you go, Chad Muma. That was in there somewhere. I remembered the helmet. That's about it. Okay, so this schedule of some combination, I'm going to get it right, even though you've already told me. I'll have it in front of me just to make sure we get it right. It's always dangerous to predict a schedule, right? But they have the Bengals now on primetime. I'll be there. And they have the Ravens on Monday Night Football, at Atlanta, at Kansas City, and then against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home on December 15th. Given the way this team has played the last couple of weeks, ban Tyler from SoFi during this winning streak. Hey, I was at least there for the win over the Raiders. I was there for that one. The awful Raiders team. I saw that one, and I've seen that one every year. And none of you ever go to that game, you assholes. Leave me hanging. Me and a bunch of Raiders fans. Thanks a lot. No banning me during the win streak. I will be there and I will watch them lose.
If they lose the Bengals, I think a ban has to be considered.
I'll get arrested walking into the stadium on Monday Night Football. They won on primetime when I've been there. They don't win very often. I'm bringing my sister with me to the Bengals game, so she might be the good luck.
Did you go to the Dolphins game a couple years ago? It's the last one.
Which one was that?
The Herbert Sunday night one.
Oh, the really good one. No, I didn't go to that one. I went to the Chiefs loss. I I did go to the Rams win over Baker Mayfield and the Titans win over Malik Willis. So
You're listing a lot of games that are not primetime games.
Shh. Anyway, so I'll be there at the Bengals game. It used to be, I think, for like 7 years on my girlfriend at the time's birthday. The Chargers would always win that weekend, but I think that streak has been broken because of the Cardinals. So thanks a lot, guys. Okay. Anyway, back to these games, 2 of which I'm attending. I apologize in advance. Bengals, Baltimore, Falcons, Chiefs, and Bucks. Where do we have the Chargers record in those 5 games? Chat, you let me know. Alex, would you like to take a stab at it?
Beat the Bengals, lose to the Ravens. Say they beat the Falcons, lose to the Chiefs. So I'll have them at 3-2.
And then beat the Bucks, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have them beating the Bucks. Our case would be helped if we had Marshawn Lattimore, but
as long as the Chiefs don't have him, that's fine.
Yeah.
Atlanta has gone through some injuries. The Bucks lost worse today, it sounds like. So I think Tampa Bay is, unfortunately, 3-4 weeks ago when they had everybody, they looked like a whole heck of force of nature. Now they're just kind of sputtering to the finish line. So Bucks, I feel better about.
I wonder about that stretch because they did the Steelers-Panthers thing where they stayed on the East Coast. So East Coast, but I wonder if they're planning on doing something similar with the Falcons Chiefs back-to-back. I don't know.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Like you said, it's not exactly like East Coast, just down the coastline. But I could see them at least just flying to Kansas City, Atlanta, or something like that. Just kind of help them out there. They want to reduce their miles back and forth, and I don't see why they couldn't make it work there. And they play the Chiefs all the time, so I would imagine they know where to stay and go, and it's not difficult to figure out. Okay, so I will have them beating the Bengals, but I'm sure my heart will get the beats per minute of 50 or whatever during that game. The Ravens are so tricky because of their secondary stinks, but they're so talented. Their offense is a complete juggernaut. I'll have them losing to the Ravens. That feels realistic after a win to the Bengals. Lose to the Ravens, which I know people will hate, but whatever. They'll beat the Falcons. They'll beat the Bucks.
You can if you want, you can give yourself the homer points over me right now if you predict them to beat the Chiefs.
They can beat the Chiefs, man.
I believe they can. But some cataclysm of events is going to happen that they'll be up 1 entering the final drive, and I don't know. But it would be nice if they're the team that finishes the Chiefs' unbeaten season. That'd be really cool.
That would be something. I'm sure. I wonder if they can flex that game to prime time if the Chargers are on a win streak and they are undefeated still. Chiefs
starting prime time, right?
The Chiefs game is. Oh, it is Sunday, on prime time. Oh my God, they really have 3 out of. Okay, awesome. Yeah. You're not joining me for any of those recaps, I don't think. So hopefully Steven comes back. Oh, you can though if they win, but I'm not saying you can't.
Well, I'll have to be up to watch the 5 a.m. Harbaugh press conferences anyway, so I'll have to be up to watch those at the end of the game. So.
Perfect. Who's the Chiefs? Well, Chiefs are already at Buffalo next week, so that could end the conversation. So we'll see. But then it's Carolina and then the Raiders. So, dang, they really just get to play the Panthers and the Raiders and Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Houston, Denver. Yeah, sorry, I don't think the Chargers are winning the division.
Primetime games that the Raiders get to start the year. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember how many it was.
Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, so Dietz is saying that I should say that we lose to the Chiefs. I'm happy to fall on that sword for everyone. If you think that my jinx is kind of a reverse thing, I will do the opposite. I will guarantee a win against the Chiefs. I will
hashtag ban Tyler.
Hashtag nope. I bought the tickets. It's too late. Hashtag will be there. Hashtag whatever. I will guarantee they will beat the Chiefs. Even though, ask me when we get to the game, though, I'll probably change my mind. But I'll guarantee it for now. But then I'll change my mind later. Yeah, Jacob says book it. I agree. I think at this point we got to book it. That's it. Nope. Sorry, Kevin. It's too late. Yes, that's what we need is Brett Coleman to say the Chiefs are going to win. Brett Coleman says, although he had praised the Minter, Jesse Minter is so good. Brett Coleman was all in on Jesse Minter, and the Minter's defense is still good. So
yeah,
that's how good he is. All right. Any final thoughts on the game? Oh, go for it.
Well, the funny thing about the Coleman thing is like I just remember it was the Chiefs game that he was just all over like, oh, Jesse Minter's defense is great, and then like 3 seconds later that was the Xavier Worthy touchdown.
Yeah, it was like welcome to hell, Patrick was his post.
Yeah,
and then he threw like a 60-yard touchdown. I was like, I'm so sorry. I know it's weird that the Chargers would just give up the random big touchdown and that's it.
Yeah,
but yeah, Brett Coleman, do us a solid there. Like you work for the team. Start working your curse in our favor.
Yeah. Maybe until Khalil Mack gets healthy, we stop talking about how many tons of 4C generates until he gets on the bend.
Yeah, I think he tweeted like first ballot Hall of Famer ? And then he got injured like in the game. So yeah, the Coleman curse is a genuine real thing. For me, I think it's just the Chargers curse.
Yeah.
So yeah. Alrighty. I believe that's it for me. Alex, any final thoughts on this game?
Nice to get a win. And yeah, going into this stretch, they, I think had to be legitimately 6-3, 7-2, when we were talking about this 4-game stretch that started from the Cardinals game. These were the games you had to win. And for the most part, they took care of business. So nice to be in this position to be able to even afford to drop a game here or there. But yeah, this is where we find the rubber meeting the road, and we'll figure out, how good this team is. I know we have a lot of preseason skepticism to a degree still, just based off of, what we thought of this roster. But there's certainly some things that are starting to click for them, and, it'll just be about kind of nullifying their weaknesses. And I hope that Tyler's heart rate is 350 next week, like he said, and that's not Jamar Chase's yardage total. So
I would rather Tyler die at SoFi than have Jamar Chase go off against the Chargers. Hey, whatever it takes, man.
Put it like that.
I'd rather. Thank you. On that note, I will try not to have a heart attack, and the defense will try not to lose against the Bengals. But we'll all be there next week, so hopefully all goes well for both my heart and the Chargers defense. That's going to do it from us today. Thank you for joining Alex and I on a positive live stream. That was nice. Take care, guys. See you next week. And as always, bolt up.